All right, so let's talk about a new segment we're going to start on the show. It's going to be called, maybe we'll come up with a better name, but right now I'm just calling it real estate terminology. So each week,
come up with a different name.
I know, but each week we're going to talk about a term and kind of break it down. Jen, do you have the term in front of you?
All right, the term for this podcast is as is. Would you like me to tell you about it? What we have for our notes here so far?
Should we let them just tell us what they think it is?
Let's read the definition and then we can dissect if it's right, because I stole it from the internet.
Mm-hmm. So a property marketed in as-is condition usually indicates that a seller is unwilling to perform most, if not all, repairs. It could also mean that it is priced as is, which typically lower than market pricing in the area, is what this says.
The first definition is the only one I'm familiar with. People use that if sellers just say, I don't want to do any work on the property, and sometimes they stick to that and sometimes they don't. But people who are selling their houses oftentimes think if they say we're selling as is, that will preclude people from asking them to make repairs or lower the price based upon the inspection. It won't.
Yeah, that's something that people don't necessarily understand, that you can say that something is as is, but if people can still do an inspection, they can still ask. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean that all of that stuff is going to go away. And can it be detrimental to say that your house is as is? In some cases it might, because then people are like, well, what's wrong with it?
Right.
So you have to be careful when you use that as-is language, for sure.
I think in this market now, you may have the as-is. People understand a little bit better that it's priced. Going to the second definition.
Yeah, that second part about price, I would never have thought that was something. So I would say the internet wasn't right there. But
I got it wrong.
I charge you, internet. I say no.
So you don't think there's an implicit, this is cheaper, then it's lower. There's something, like you're saying, there's something wrong with it because it's as is. Like, why would you say that unless there's something wrong with it, right?
Well, people think potentially that there's something wrong with it. I don't know that it comes through, at least in any market that I've ever worked in, that it was, more affordable. Because, you would hope, I think maybe some people think that they're going to get a deal if it's as is, and maybe that's what this is getting at. Mm-hmm. But in reality, then, nope. I don't think so.
Not in this market.
Well, not in any market I can think of.
Yeah. It basically just means the seller doesn't want to mess with it.
Yeah, the seller doesn't want to do anything. So if you are willing to take it as it is, I guess it might give somebody license to try and lowball and be like, okay, I will offer you a lower offer because you're as is and I won't make you fix anything.
As is certainly indicates that there's a likelihood that there's work that needs to be done on the property, mm-hmm. because you would never put a property in top shape on the market and say we're selling this as is.
I've had people want to do that though before. And I'm like,
they just don't want to deal with anything.
Yeah, they're just like, we don't want to do anything. We think we did all we're doing and we're done. And it's like, well, you're sending a really poor message, because now people think that, you've got something hiding somewhere.
Can you say as is in perfect condition?
Yeah. That's I've wanted to say stuff like that, or I've talked to people and been like, are you sure that you want to put that on there? Like.
Yeah. It doesn't really make sense, because if the house is in tip-top shape, why even, what else is there to, it will be as is.
Yeah, people are like, I just don't want to negotiate. Like, okay.
Certainly you get, as a buyer, you go out and look at a property and you say to yourself, what's wrong with this property that isn't evident to me? What's wrong with this property that isn't being disclosed by the seller? And that's always in your back of your mind. And if you put in the as-is provision, that just triggers that. Yeah, there's something wrong here. So you want to. It's probably not very useful
Yeah, usually it's a seller that wants it before I would say we're putting that in there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people, whether it's as is or not, they're likely going to have an inspection. So they have the inspection and you say as is, it's probably going to have the same outcome.
Yeah.
So why?
It might save you a step of like the buyer's like, oh, I'm not going to ask for repairs. I just know I got to suck it up if I want this.
In some cases, maybe. But if it's something really major, they might just say, well, they're not even going to negotiate. We're out.
That should be disclosed in the condition report anyway.
Yeah, if it's that major league, it really should be on the condition report.
It's an aspirational expression by the seller.
All right, I'm going to crop out everything and just, that's the quote. It's just,
Deep.
yeah,
Deep.
it's deep and poignant. All right, I got some questions. I got some as-is questions for you. So, who's responsible for a home's condition if it changes after the offer was written? So it says it was as is, they write an offer, and then, I don't know, there's a flood in the basement.
Was the offer written or accepted?
It was written.
But it wasn't accepted?
Let's say it was accepted.
Okay.
No, it was accepted.
Okay.
And now there's a flood in the basement after it was accepted. But it was written as is. So who is responsible there?
Still have the 15%. Or damage past a certain percentage that still they
I
can
mean,
get out of the offer.
the seller has to disclose if something happens to their property. Wisconsin isn't a buyer beware state. If things go catastrophically wrong in a property, you have to let the buyer know.
And then the buyer has the option of still backing out of the deal.
The only time that they would have to be able to back out of the deal is if I believe it's more than 5% of the purchase prices
price.
in damages.
Which if the basement's flooded, that's definitely probably more than 5%.
Yeah. So if it's like a mattress falls down a stairs and it, wrecks some drywall, that's not it. It has to be pretty catastrophic for it to, be in that dollar amount. But yeah, if it got above the 5% and the seller couldn't bring it back to its original condition or wouldn't bring it back to its original condition, then the buyer could get out. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, they need to, disclose it and talk about it and figure out what they're going to do. Because the seller, there's a newer clause in the offer to purchase where the seller has to maintain the property. So they have to maintain it. They can't just be like, oh, you bought it. I'm, turning off the heat and I'm not going to weed anything
But
and
now they
we're
have
going
an
to let it
indoor
go.
It's a nice clause.
No, it's a pool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
an indoor pool.
Did say as is,
Yeah.
as will be.
In some states where it's buyer beware, maybe you could do that, but not here. So,
Nice.
and if somebody tried to do it, I think it would be quite an outcry.
So basically, this real estate terminology segment is going to turn into what the internet thinks, and then we correct the internet.
Sorry, internet.
I like it.
Well, but the internet probably has real estate from all over.
Oh, yeah, it's
So if you have
generalized.
something that's more buyer beware, then maybe, but that's not here. Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, there's your internet correction of the day segment.
Editing Internet by Jen.
I like it. Now I already made some graphics. Now I got to fix them. All right.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'd rather them be correct than wrong.
If you like content like this, consider watching some of these other videos, hitting the subscribe button. If you want to know what your house is currently worth, go to hometeamforyou.com and look at the free evaluation tool.